Hello everybody, welcome back to The Contrarian. I have some exciting news I want to update you on. You probably have already heard the news, but apparently Michael Burry is back on Twitter after around a 10-week sabbatical leave for him, and I was expecting to have kind of a restful evening. I was just sitting down in my lazy boy chair, and I took a look at the news, and all of a sudden Michael Burry is trending, and I thought to myself, what has this guy said next to get trending? And actually he is back on Twitter, so that's an exciting announcement, and there's a lot that he has already said. So I'll just go through a couple of his most notable tweets, actually one in particular that I think really does pertain the most to the market. Let me try to find it real quick here. He says, people always ask me what is going on in the markets. It is simple. Greatest speculative bubble of all time in all things, by 2 orders of magnitude. Hashtag FlyingPigs360. So this is quite the tweet from Burry, and yeah, I'll definitely give my thoughts on this. This is just very crystal clear in terms of what he's thinking, what his current mentality is on the stock market, on the markets in general. But yeah, basically, I wouldn't want to bet against Burry. He hasn't really been wrong before. He's been wrong with timing. He's been very early on things, but he has never been completely wrong entirely on a position before that he's had. So I just put a lot of credibility to his background because of that. He seems to be very good at analyzing the markets, analyzing the various complicated factors that go into making these kinds of forecasts and making these kinds of claims. And I just definitely would not want to bet against him. But this is just a very straightforward thing that he's saying, that we're in the greatest speculative bubble of all time in all things, by 2 orders of magnitude, so by 100 times apparently. I don't know if I would quite agree with that claim, but it's definitely getting up there and looking at other people who I put a lot of credibility behind, such as Jeremy Grantham, a person who's had much more experience than Burry, who also would probably agree with Burry on this claim. But yeah, I would just say that he's said this kind of thing before. Even before he was ever really trending in the news lately, even just as recent as, or as long ago as 2 years ago, he was saying that passive investing is in a bubble. And I have made a couple of videos recently covering that and just how the nature of passive investing is not actually passive, especially when it's done at the order at which it is currently being done. And Burry, of course, pointed that out 2 years ago at this point. So it's really nothing new. This should not come as much of a surprise to anybody who's really been following him very closely. But yeah, I think just looking around ourselves, looking at Bitcoin, looking at Tesla, looking at all these other meme stocks, AMC, GameStop, all these other bankrupt companies and whatever, it's not hard to see this kind of extreme speculation that Burry is referring to. There's classic examples of that, such as Tesla, which Burry is short right now, and Bitcoin. That's, both of these are somewhat debatable. There's people who claim that Tesla is going to be the biggest company in 10 years from now, and those who claim that Bitcoin is going to replace all the fiat currencies, and therefore it's going to at least $12 million per Bitcoin or whatever. But I personally, I'm not going to give any sort of advice about this, but I just really would not want to be betting against somebody like Burry, who's been right so many times when others have called him crazy for thinking what he's thought. Looking back at the dot-com bubble and the housing bubble, both of which Burry predicted and both of which he actually went short different equities and actually benefited from those crashes. I just would not want to be betting against Burry. He's also tweeted about some other things that don't necessarily pertain to the markets. A typical Burry, he's just promoting a lot of rock bands out there and boycotting Major League Baseball, boycotting Amazon and Facebook, boycotting Coke. So he has been somewhat red-pilled in the last year, you could probably say. Yeah, so all that being said, I don't have any sort of advice to offer here, but my main thoughts on this are that it's good to have Burry back. It's good to have his voice at least periodically known and know what he's thinking, but in a way, I was not surprised at all to hear this update from him, because it's entirely what I would expect. Now, what could this potentially mean for his portfolio, you might ask? And, it's kind of a hard to answer question, because he'd also been tweeting about hyperinflation and the extreme threat of inflation occurring prior to this. And we just got his Q1 of 2021 13F filing just a couple of weeks ago, so we kind of know where he was in terms of his positioning only 3 months ago. So a lot could have changed between then and now. Burry's a significant trader out there. He trades a lot within his Scion Asset Management, so it'd be really difficult for me to kind of say what would he still be holding, what would he might have sold between then and now. But I would guess that he's probably just going to be trimming more and more of his positions as time goes on, as this bubble likely gets closer and closer to actually imploding on itself and popping, as it were, as is commonly referred to with bubbles. I would just expect that Burry would continue to trim his positions and potentially add even more short positions. He has a 40% short position in Tesla with put options. So, I mean, the 40% is somewhat misleading. That's only that's putting the value on all the shares that are behind those options. So he's not actually putting 40% of all of his cash into put options on Tesla. But I would also expect that, given all of these bubbles that he's talked about, given all of these cryptos and other meme stocks, and especially Tesla, he's confirmed that he's short Tesla now in his most recent filing. I would expect that he's probably going to start shorting some other things as well that are in that bubble type territory, because there's definitely no shortage of stocks like that right now. You can find them pretty much in every industry. He says it's all across the board right now. So, all that being said, this is not to be taken as financial advice, and none of this is. If you like this video, if you like what I talk about on this channel, The Contrarian, which is going against the crowd, talking about other people out there who I really think are credible voices on Wall Street, and giving voices to their ideas. If you like that kind of content, just consider subscribing, and I hope to see you again.